Not every movie apocalypse is created equal. Some give you a fighting chance, others are basically just elaborate ways to watch humanity get deleted. So today, I'm ranking the movie apocalypses that actually survive, from near impossible to practically a vacation. And we're starting with one that made me genuinely reconsider the whole video, World War Z. Let me be clear about something. These are not zombies. Not in any way you've ever thought about zombies. These are a coordinated, self-sacrificing swarm intelligence that figured out siege warfare in about 48 hours. The moment one of these things detects you, you have 12 seconds. That's not 12 seconds to run. That's 12 seconds before it reaches peak aggression and closes the distance at full sprint. They can sense a living human from roughly 100 meters away, which means by the time you see one, it already knows exactly where you are. But here's where it gets genuinely hopeless. You know what most people's survival plan is? Find a wall. Fortify. Great strategy. Except these zombies literally stack their own bodies into living pyramids to scale fortified walls. Your fortress isn't protecting you. It's telling them exactly where dinner is. The virus spreads through blood contact with a 100% infection rate. One scratch, one drop of infected blood in your eye, and you're done. Freshly turned zombies even retain motor memory for 8 to 12 hours. So if a soldier gets bitten, congratulations. You now have a zombie that remembers how to operate a door handle. This is a global scale collapse where being prepared actively makes you a bigger target. I'd give myself about 3 days, and honestly that's generous. But at least these things are technically dead. The infected in our next entry, they're very much alive, and somehow that's worse. 28 days later, let's get one thing straight. These aren't zombies. They're living, breathing humans who've been infected with something called the Rage virus. And that distinction changes everything about how you survive. Or, more accurately, how you don't. See, with traditional zombies, you're fighting reanimated corpses. Slow, dumb, rotting. You can outrun them. You can outthink them. The infected in 28 days later are sprinting at you at full speed, no stumbling, no hesitation, with enough environmental awareness to navigate obstacles while they're doing it. They're not shuffling around a parking lot. They're chasing you like a crackhead chasing a dollar bill down a highway. And the infection speed is the real nightmare. One splash of blood, one drop of saliva, that's it. 15 to 20 seconds later, your best friend is trying to bite your face off. You don't even have time to say goodbye. You barely have time to say, oh no. But here's where it gets truly hopeless. You're on an island. The UK is surrounded by open water on every side, and your only connections to mainland Europe are the Channel Tunnel and a handful of ferry ports, all of which are going to be overrun or shut down before you even pack a bag. You're trapped on a landmass with millions of rabid sprinters, and your exit strategy is basically learn to swim. At least with World War Z, the zombies are coordinating in swarms you can see coming. These are individual berserkers exploding out of doorways with zero warning. The one slim advantage is that it's not airborne. Blood and saliva only. So in theory, if you never get close to anyone, you're fine. In practice, every single encounter involves fluid contact because they're literally throwing themselves at you. Cool, love that for me, but at least the infected are stuck on land. The next movie traps you somewhere even worse, with nowhere to run and the walls closing in around you. Train to Busan. Let's talk about the apocalypse where the zombies aren't even your biggest problem. The train is. Train to Busan takes place almost entirely inside a KTX bullet train hurtling through South Korea. And the thing nobody appreciates until they really think about it is how absolutely cooked you are the second those doors close. A train is a tube, 2 directions, no lateral movement. You can go forward or you can go backward, and both of those directions probably have zombies in them. Here's the thing, these zombies aren't even that special individually. They're fast, sure, but the real nightmare is that they display pack intelligence. They coordinate breaching attempts through train cars, slamming into barricades in waves until something gives, and something always gives. The entire train journey plays out over roughly 2 to 3 hours. That's it. In that window, the vast majority of passengers on that train are turned. That's not a survival rate. That's surrounding error. But wait, at least the train itself keeps you moving, right? Away from danger? Turns out, no. The zombies react to sound, meaning every screech of the brakes, every announcement over the intercom, every panicked scream from a passenger is basically functioning as a giant dinner bell on rails, which is, not ideal, and there are 0 established safe zones anywhere in the film. Not one. Every station they pull into is already overrun. Every potential exit is a dead end. The community consensus on this one is pretty unanimous. Train to Busan is considered one of the most hopeless zombie scenarios ever filmed, and it's specifically because of the setting. The zombies are the weapon, weapon, but the train is the kill box. I'm putting this one low on the survivability list because the environment does most of the killing for the zombies. But if you think a claustrophobic tube of death sounds bad, wait until you see what happens when fast zombies get an entire city to work with. Dawn of the Dead, 2004. Here's where we cross the line from absolutely not to okay. Maybe, if literally everything goes right. The 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake gives you fast zombies, a shopping mall full of supplies, and just enough hope to make the inevitable collapse hurt worse. These zombies sprint. We're talking full dead sprint. No fatigue, no slowing down, fast enough to run down pretty much any normal person alive. And the infection timeline is genuinely cruel. Bite to reanimation can happen in as little as 0 to 8 minutes. 0, as in the person dies and immediately gets back up swinging. You don't get a tearful goodbye. You don't get to make them comfortable. You get about enough time to say, oh no, before your friend is trying to eat your face. But here's the thing, the mall itself is actually incredible. Food, water, clothing, pharmacy, hardware store for makeshift weapons. You could theoretically live there for months. It's a survival paradise, which is exactly the problem. Everything that makes the mall livable for you also makes it a giant beacon for every zombie in a 50-mile radius. Thousands of them pile up outside the perimeter. The glass holds, the barricades hold, until they don't. The mall isn't a fortress. It's a countdown timer shaped like a JCPenney. By the climax, roughly 5 survivors pile into reinforced shuttle buses and make a desperate run to the marina for a boat escape, and even that goes sideways. 5 people out of an entire city's population. That's your success rate. Now, Romero purists will tell you the 1978 original did the mall concept better, and honestly, they're right, but for completely different reasons. Because when your zombies shuffle instead of sprinting like Olympic athletes who forgot they're dead, the math changes dramatically. And speaking of slow zombies changing the math, let's go all the way back to the one that started everything, Night of the Living Dead. This is the one that started it all, and honestly, it should be the easiest apocalypse on this entire list. The zombies move at 1 to 2 miles per hour. That's slower than your grandmother walking to the mailbox. They have 0 coordination, 0 strategy, and the upper body strength of a wet paper towel. You could outpace them at a brisk jog without breaking a sweat. And yet, here's the thing about Night of the Living Dead. The zombies aren't the problem. They were never the problem. The real killer is every other human being trapped in that farmhouse with you. The film plays out over roughly 12 to 16 hours. And in that time, the survivors manage to argue themselves into an early grave more efficiently than any shambling corpse ever could. Poor group cohesion doesn't just reduce your odds, it actively accelerates your death. These people couldn't agree on whether to board up a window or hide in the basement, and that indecision cost them everything. Now, the other wrinkle. Any death causes reanimation. Doesn't matter if you were bitten, shot, or just had a heart attack from the stress of listening to Harry Cooper yell for the 15th consecutive hour. You die, you come back, which means the threat pool literally never stops growing. Every casualty on your side becomes a new recruit for theirs. The farmhouse itself is both your greatest asset and your coffin. Total isolation means nobody is coming to save you. There's no government response, no military convoy, no helicopter on the horizon. You're on your own with a boarded-up door and a group of strangers who'd rather fight each other than the things outside. Could I survive the zombies themselves? Absolutely. Could I survive the people? History says no. Nobody in that film makes it because of zombies. They make it because of each other, which is, not ideal. But if you think slow zombies and human stupidity sound bad, wait until the zombies are genetically engineered bioweapons and the building itself is trying to kill you. Resident Evil. This is where the list takes a hard left turn, because Resident Evil isn't really a zombie movie. It's a workplace safety violation with teeth. Here's the setup. You're trapped in an underground research facility called the Hive, which is controlled by an artificial intelligence that has decided everything inside needs to die. The zombies? Almost a secondary concern. The real enemy is an omniscient computer system that controls every door, every corridor, every security system in the building you're stuck in. Laser grids that can dice a human into cubes in under 3 seconds. Automated sentries, flooding, fire. The Hive throws everything at you like a landlord trying to evict tenants who won't leave. And then there are the actual zombies, which aren't your standard shambling corpses. These are T-virus bioweapons, genetically engineered in a corporate lab with over 20 specialized variants. Some are fast, some are massive, some have capabilities that make regular zombies look like sleepy toddlers. You're not fighting one type of threat. You're fighting a rotating catalog of biological nightmares, each one designed specifically to kill things. So let me get this straight. I'm underground, with 0 sunlight, in a sealed facility I don't know the layout of, fighting lab-grown monsters while a super supercomputer actively rearranges the building to murder me. Cool. That's also a thing I have to deal with now. The one saving grace is that this apocalypse is contained. It's not a global event, at least not yet. The objective isn't survive for years. It's get out of this building alive. You don't need a long-term food strategy or a fortified compound. You need to find an exit before the AI floods your hallway or a licker drops from the ceiling and introduces itself. But containment cuts both ways. Every wall is a cage wall. Every locked door is the hive saying no. And the facility was designed to keep things in, not let people out. My survival odds come down to one question. Can I find the exit before the building kills me? But at least the hive is just one AI in one facility. The next entry has 400,000 zombies surrounding a bunker with 11 people inside, and the math on that is significantly worse. Day of the Dead, 11 people. That's it. 11 survivors crammed into an underground military bunker while an estimated 400,000 zombies shuffle around on the surface like the world's worst neighborhood watch. And you'd think, okay, military bunker, trained soldiers, this is manageable. Turns out, no. Here's the thing about Day of the Dead. The bunker sounds great on paper. Underground, fortified, stocked with supplies. But those supplies were designed for short-term occupation. We're talking critical depletion around day 12. That's less time than most people spend deciding what to watch on Netflix. You're not building a new civilization down there. You're watching a countdown timer while 11 increasingly unstable people argue about what to do next. Standard Romero rules apply. Slow zombies, death equals reanimation, and the numbers are so overwhelmingly against you that speed doesn't matter. 400,000 of anything will eventually get through a door. That's just math. But here's where it gets genuinely unsettling. There's a zombie named Bub, and Bub is different. After military conditioning, Bub demonstrates actual tool use. He picks up objects with purpose. He understands weapons, not in a monkey banging rocks together way, but in a way that suggests something is still happening behind those dead eyes. Some fragment of the person he used to be is still in there, learning, and that's the real nightmare. It's not the 400,000 zombies on the surface. It's the creeping realization that you might be killing conscious beings who can learn and remember and recognize a salute. The moment you start asking, are these things still human? You've lost the one psychological advantage survivors have, which is guilt-free violence. Meanwhile, the trained soldiers whose entire job is protection completely fall apart. Infighting, power struggles, total institutional collapse. The bunker isn't a fortress. It's a pressure cooker with a 12-day fuse. Could I survive this? Honestly, maybe. The zombies are slow, the bunker is secure short-term, and if you get topside with a vehicle, you've got options. But surviving while wondering whether every zombie you put down is still a thinking, feeling person, that's a different kind of death. But at least in Day of the Dead, the zombies are learning slowly. In the original Dawn of the Dead, they don't need to learn anything at all, because the mall gives you everything you need to survive, which sounds perfect until you realize what actually kills you. Dawn of the Dead, 1978. Remember the 2004 remake, Fast Zombies? Full-on sprinting, turning a shopping mall into a death trap? Yeah, forget all of that. Because the original Dawn of the Dead takes the exact same location and turns it into, honestly, a pretty decent place to live. The zombies in Romero's 1978 classic are barely mobile. They shamble, they stumble, they move like they're wading through invisible molasses. You could outpace these things while carrying furniture. You could outpace them while assembling the furniture. They have zero coordination, zero problem-solving ability, and zero urgency. They're less undead nightmare and more inconvenient pedestrians. And the mall itself, it's basically a post-apocalyptic resort. You've got food courts, clothing stores, entertainment, functional plumbing, and enough supplies to last months, if not years. 4 survivors move in, barricade the entrances, and just start living. They eat well. They play arcade games. They try on fur coats. It's the apocalypse, and these people are having a better time than most of us do on a regular Tuesday. Here's the thing. They succeed. For weeks, this setup works perfectly. The zombies outside are a non-issue. They press against the glass like confused shoppers who forgot the store is closed. The community inside the mall is sustainable, comfortable, and genuinely safe. So what kills it? Not the zombies. Obviously, not the zombies. A biker gang shows up, breaches the barricades for no strategic reason whatsoever, and lets the horde pour in. That's it. Weeks of successful survival undone because a group of leather-clad idiots wanted to loot a JCPenney. This is the turning point in the ranking. Everything before this was, maybe I survive if I'm lucky. Dawn of the Dead 1978 is I survive unless another human being actively decides to ruin it for me, which, knowing people, is still a concern. But the zombies themselves, completely manageable. I'd take them all. I'd take it today, apocalypse or not. But if you think slow zombies in a shopping mall sound easy, easy. Wait until you see a zombie apocalypse where the survivors barely even notice it's happening. Shaun of the Dead. After everything we've just been through, the existential dread, the underground bunker politics, the 250,000 zombies pressing against reinforced steel, I need you to understand something. The zombies in Shaun of the Dead move at roughly 1 to 2 miles per hour. That's not a sprint. That's not even a jog. That's your nan heading to the post office on a Tuesday morning. This is the apocalypse with training wheels. The infected in this world are so slow, so unbelievably predictable, that the main characters literally walk through crowds of them at a normal pace and don't get caught. You don't need a weapon, you don't need a plan, you need functioning legs and the basic awareness to not fall asleep standing up in the middle of a horde. That's it. That's the survival requirement. And here's the thing, the infrastructure in London is still working. Cars still run, phones still function. The roads aren't blocked by military checkpoints or overrun with panicked mobs. It's a zombie outbreak happening in the background of everyone's Tuesday commute. And half the population doesn't even notice because they're already shuffling around like zombies anyway. The film literally makes that joke, and it holds up as a genuine tactical observation. Your fortification options are absurd. Shaun's group picks the Winchester, a pub, and it works. Multiple exits, thick walls, a lifetime supply of peanuts and lager. The biggest strategic debate in this entire apocalypse is which pub to hide in. Not whether to amputate a bitten limb. Not whether to mercy kill your best friend. Which pub. But the real safety net is the British military. They show up. They establish quarantine zones. They execute rescue protocols. Institutional authority is actively working for you in this scenario. Shaun and Liz make it out as functioning, uninfected humans. Ed, played by Nick Frost, gets bitten and turns. But even that's barely a tragedy because Shaun just keeps him in the shed playing video games for eternity. The man literally becomes a zombie and his lifestyle doesn't change. Two normal, unfit, tactically clueless people survive with zero training, and their biggest loss gets to keep gaming. I'd give myself a 98% survival rate here, and the remaining 2% accounts exclusively for the possibility that I trip over a curb and knock myself unconscious face down in a puddle. Basic awareness is all this apocalypse asks of you, but if you think that means every comedic zombie apocalypse is a cakewalk, Zombieland has a few surprises. Zombieland. This is the one. This is where I live. Every other apocalypse on this list has some catch, some hidden mechanic that turns a survivable situation into a death sentence. Zombieland doesn't have that. Zombieland practically hands you a pamphlet on how to not die, and then gives you a continent's worth of space to figure it out. Let's start with the zombies themselves. Yes, they're fast. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. They're dumb, they're clumsy, and they have zero tactical awareness. They sprint at you in a straight line with all the strategic thinking of a shopping cart rolling downhill. The whole reason cardio is rule number 1 is because these things can be outrun if you're in decent shape. That's not a predator. That's your uncle at a family reunion after someone suggests a friendly game of football. But the real reason Zombieland sits at the top of this list is the rule system. The film gives you an explicit, learnable playbook for survival. Cardio, double tap, seatbelts, limber up. These aren't vague suggestions. They're tested, proven strategies that the main characters use to navigate a cross-country road trip for weeks, with basically zero casualties among the group. 4 people, thousands of miles, minimal problems. That's not an apocalypse. That's a gap year. And the American landscape is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. You've got abundant vehicles, weapons in practically every household, and abandoned supplies stretching across a massive geographic area. The zombie density is relatively sparse because America is enormous, and the population, while large, is spread thin outside major cities. Stay out of downtown Manhattan and you're looking at maybe a few zombies per square mile. Verified safe zones exist, including Bill Murray's compound, which, honestly, sounds like a better living situation than most apartments. Here's the kicker though. The zombies have no special infection method beyond a bite. No airborne strain, no waterborne pathogen, no we're all already carriers twist. You just have to not get bitten. That's it. Every other zombie franchise finds some way to make infection unavoidable, and Zombieland just says, don't let the slow-brained sprinter put its mouth on you. That's the entire challenge. I've avoided being bitten by things my whole life. I'm practically an expert. So, yeah, Zombieland is the zombie apocalypse where the zombies are fast but brainless. The survivors get a rulebook. The country is too big to ever be fully overrun, and the infection vector is completely avoidable with basic awareness. I'd not only survive this one, I'd thrive. I might even enjoy it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see everything science gets wrong about zombie viruses, click the video on the screen now.